The galaxy had long forgotten humans. For centuries, their name existed only in old stories, archived data, and the echoes of war songs sung on long-lost worlds. Some believed humans were clever and brave. Others whispered that they were reckless, fighting impossible battles with nothing but courage and stubbornness. One thing was certain. Humans were gone, extinct. Their home, Earth, had vanished into legend after the Great Exile War, leaving behind nothing but ruins, scattered artifacts, and memories. Commander Lyra Voss of the Zelnari fleet was different. She had grown up hearing stories about humans from old textbooks, from data crystals that survived countless conflicts. Unlike most of her peers, she did not dismiss them as myth. There was something in the stories, something about the humans' will to survive that called to her. She had studied every record she could find, the battles, the inventions, the strategies, the way humans faced impossible odds without fear. Lyra stood in the bridge of her flagship, the Dawnstrider, gazing at the flickering holoscreens. She had just received a curious signal from an uncharted sector near the edge of the Virelan cluster. At first glance, it seemed like a normal distress signal, one of many they intercepted during their patrols. But the encryption was unusual. It carried an ancient signature, one matching old Terran Alliance protocols. "Commander," said Lieutenant Jarrus Call, her second in command, "the signal's origin is unusual. The encryption is very old. Older than anything we've seen outside the archives. Could it really be human?" Lyra did not answer immediately. She tilted her head, studying the readings. The signal was weak, distorted, almost buried beneath cosmic radiation. Yet beneath that static, there was something unmistakable. An intelligent, deliberate attempt to communicate. "Plot a course," she said finally, her voice steady but tinged with anticipation. "We follow it. Whatever it is, I want to see it for myself." The crew moved quickly, preparing the ship for the journey. Sensors hummed, engines whirred, and data streams flowed like rivers of light. As they approached the coordinates, Lyra felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. Humans had not been seen for centuries, yet here was evidence suggesting they might still exist, or at least something left behind by them. The signal led them to a small, lifeless moon in the Viridian void, a place marked only by craters and metallic debris. The surface was barren, gray, and silent, as if time itself had forgotten it. Scans revealed old, rusted wrecks scattered across the rocky landscape. Remnants of warships, structures that had long since crumbled, and unidentifiable technology buried beneath the dust. "Commander," Jarrus said, frowning at the display, "the readings indicate life, faint but present. It's coming from a buried structure beneath the surface." Lyra's eyes widened. "Prepare the excavation team. We go down immediately. I want answers." Within hours, they landed near a large crater, the remains of a battle long past. Lyra led her team, walking over jagged metal and shattered rock. The wind was thin here, and the silence pressed against them like a weight. Her heart beat faster as they approached a massive metallic door half buried in the dirt. Strange markings covered its surface, the Terran Alliance emblem, barely visible after centuries of decay. Jarrus ran his hand over the cold metal. This is incredible. "Commander, these designs are old, very old. This must be a Terran outpost." Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. "Then the legends were true," she whispered. "Humans were real, and this might be their last resting place." The team worked carefully, clearing debris and activating the door's control mechanisms. With a hiss of air and a groan of ancient machinery, the door slowly opened, revealing a long, dimly lit chamber. Dust floated in motes that shimmered in the pale light. The walls were lined with pods, tall glass-like cylinders filled with a strange mist. Most were cracked or empty, their occupants gone, lost to time. But one pod stood intact. Its surface was frosted over, yet the sensors indicated life. Heartbeats, weak but present. Lyra stepped closer, barely daring to breathe. Inside, a man lay still, his features calm and composed despite the centuries. His armor, though damaged and worn, still carried the mark of the Terran Alliance. A monitor near the pod flickered weakly, displaying his designation, Captain Elias Ward, status, stable. Lyra's hand hovered over the pod's controls. "This can't be real," she whispered. "He's alive." Jarrus shook his head. "I've never seen anything like this. Commander, he should not exist. Humans disappeared long ago. Lyra ignored him, focusing on the pod. She initiated the revival sequence, carefully following protocols written in long-forgotten Terran coding. Lights blinked, air systems hummed, and slowly the frost began to recede. The man's eyes opened. They were sharp, clear, and alert, scanning the chamber with a focus that betrayed no confusion. His voice, when it came, was steady and commanding. Status report. Where is the enemy? The words froze to Lyra in place. This was no unconscious relic. This was a human. A living, breathing, fully alert human warrior awakened after centuries. Commander, he's awake, Jarrus said softly, awe lacing his tone. Lyra stepped forward. I am Commander Lyra Voss of the Zelnari fleet. You are safe. You are not under attack. You are among allies. The man looked at her, studying her as if measuring her worth. Allies? He repeated, voice calm but firm. Then the war? You're a long time gone, Lyra replied carefully. Humanity no longer exists. Earth is lost. You've been asleep for centuries. Elias Ward's gaze did not waver. For a moment he said nothing. Then slowly he spoke, his voice low but unwavering. Then the mission continues. Lyra blinked. Mission? He sat up in the pod, the movements deliberate as if muscle memory from years of training guided him. The Terran Alliance and our duty, protect, endure, survive, even if all are gone. I endure, her heart pounded. This was no ordinary soldier. This was someone who carried the weight of a species' legacy on his shoulders. She realized then that humans were not just clever or brave. They were relentless. Even in extinction, their will persisted. Over the next hours, Lyra and her team helped him acclimate to the present time. The technology, the political alliances, the alien fleets, all of it was foreign to him. Yet he adapted quickly, asking precise questions and analyzing situations with the calm logic of someone who had seen countless battles. Jarrus whispered to Lyra as they left the pod chamber. Commander, he's different. Faster, smarter, stronger than anyone I've ever trained with. And his mind. It's like a steel trap. Lyra nodded, her thoughts racing. He carries something the galaxy has forgotten. Not just skills. Not just courage. Hope. Determination. Something we all lack. Outside, the barren moon stretched endlessly, scarred by old conflicts. Yet amidst the silence, a spark had been reignited. A spark that would remind the galaxy why humans had once ruled the stars. As the Dawn Strider lifted off the moon's surface, carrying Elias Ward and the Zelnari crew, Lyra looked at the stars ahead. For centuries, humans had been gone, remembered only in whispers and legends. Now one had returned, and the galaxy would soon remember the true power of humanity. Even if humanity itself had fallen, its spirit, unyielding, fearless, and brilliant, was alive once more. And for Lyra, that was more than enough to know that their story was only just beginning. The air inside the Dawn Strider hummed with quiet activity. Crew members moved between stations, monitoring the ship's systems, yet all eyes kept drifting toward the recovered Terran warrior. Elias Ward sat in the central chamber, his posture rigid, every movement precise. Despite the centuries he had spent in cryostasis, he seemed alive with energy, his mind alert and his senses sharp. Commander Lyra Voss studied him carefully. He was not like anyone she had ever seen. Humans were myths now, remembered as brilliant but fragile, a species that had vanished under the weight of the galaxy's wars. Yet here was one, fully alive, exuding a confidence and calm that seemed to challenge everything she had believed. Commander, said Lieutenant Jarrus Call, leaning close to her console, he isn't like us. Not even close. His reflexes, his awareness, it's almost like he can anticipate events before they happen. Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of awe and apprehension. We need to understand him. But carefully, he is human, yes, but he may not trust us. Elias observed the ship and the crew in silence. His gaze moved from the controls to the windows, studying the stars passing by. After a long moment, he spoke, his voice low but steady. Status report, he said. Lyra hesitated. We are traveling to a safe zone, Commander Ward. No immediate threats detected. He cocked his head slightly. No threats yet, but danger is always near. Prepare for conflict. The crew exchanged glances. It was strange. Almost unbelievable to hear someone so confident in a future they did not understand. Lyra realized that humans were more than soldiers. They were strategists, thinkers, and survivors. Over the next hours, Elias began to acclimate. Lyra showed him the ship's control systems, communications protocols, and the state of the surrounding galaxy. He listened, nodded, and absorbed information quickly, his mind working faster than anyone could match. "What has happened to humanity?" he asked finally. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of sorrow beneath it. Lyra took a deep breath. "The humans disappeared centuries ago. Earth is lost. Your species is gone. Only remnants of your civilization remain in archives and old technology." Elias stared out the viewport at the stars. He had expected this. The galaxy was vast, and even humans could not survive every war. Yet the reality of extinction hit differently. Still, he did not despair. His jaw tightened. "Then I survive. That is enough. Humanity's knowledge, its tactics, its courage. I carry them now. And I will use them." Lyra watched him carefully. She had met many warriors in her life, but none like Elias. He had the calm certainty of someone who had fought countless battles and survived against impossible odds. His presence alone seemed to instill confidence, not just in himself, but in those around him. As they traveled toward a nearby neutral planet, Elias began to train. Though centuries had passed, his body remembered everything: the precision of combat, the handling of weapons, the instinctive strategies of a soldier. He moved with such speed and accuracy that the crew struggled to keep up. Lieutenant Jarrus watched him practice, unable to hide his amazement. "Commander, look at this. He's incredible. It's like he's anticipating every move before it happens. And those weapons. Primitive by our standards, but he uses them perfectly." Lyra nodded silently. She had already begun to understand that humans were not just physically capable. They were resourceful, creative, and fearless in ways that other species could not comprehend. It was more than strength. It was determination, intelligence, and adaptability, all wrapped into one extraordinary being. Their journey, however, was not without danger. As they left the Viridian Void, sensors picked up several small craft approaching at high speed. A band of space raiders, desperate and aggressive, had detected the unusual ship and were moving in for an attack. "Raiders," Lyra said, her voice tense. "Brace for engagement." Elias stepped forward, examining the readings on the tactical displays. "Let them come," he said simply. "They will learn why humans are feared." The raiders attacked quickly, firing plasma bolts and attempting to disable the ship's engines. Lyra's crew fought back, but their weapons seemed slow compared to Elias's instincts. Without hesitation, he moved to the weapons console, analyzing the attackers' formations. "Vector your energy cannons to the starboard flank," he commanded. "Then execute a reverse sweep. Timing is critical." The crew followed his orders, and the ship responded with precision. The raiders were caught off guard by the unexpected tactics. Plasma bolts missed their marks as the Dawn Strider maneuvered with speed and skill that seemed almost impossible. But Elias was not finished. He moved again, guiding the crew through a series of maneuvers that turned the tables completely. Within minutes, the raiders were disabled, their ship spinning out of control or retreating into the void. When the alarms quieted, Lyra looked at him in disbelief. How did you do that?" "Your knowledge, your skill. It's unlike anything I've seen." Elias turned to her, expression calm but serious. "Experience. Humans adapt. We survive by thinking, anticipating, and acting without hesitation. That is how we endure." Jarrus muttered under his breath. "I understand now why the galaxy feared humans." The rest of the journey to the neutral planet passed in tense silence, broken only by Elias asking questions about the current state of the galaxy. He wanted to know which species held power, which conflicts were ongoing, and where humans' lost technology might be hidden. Lyra realized that he was not just a soldier. He was a living archive of human knowledge, and a strategist capable of changing outcomes with a single command. His mind worked like a machine, calculating risks and predicting consequences with astonishing speed. Upon arrival at the neutral planet, the crew discovered a settlement of traders and archivists. Elias immediately recognized the value of their records, cross-referencing fragments of ancient Terran data with his memory. Slowly, a picture of the past began to form, filling gaps in the galaxy's understanding of humans. Lyra watched him interact with the settlers. Despite his centuries-long sleep, he commanded respect naturally, not through fear or threats, but through calm authority and the quiet confidence of someone who had survived every test thrown at him. "Commander," Elias said later, as they prepared to leave the planet, "humans left this galaxy too soon. There is still knowledge here, lost technology, hidden strategies, artifacts that could change the balance of power. We must find them before others do." Lyra felt a chill of excitement mixed with fear. Humans were gone, yes, but one man had returned, and with him the potential to reshape the galaxy. She had always studied humans from afar, marveling at their legends. Now she realized that the legends had underestimated them. Humanity's strength was not just in numbers or technology. It was in spirit, courage, determination, and the refusal to give up no matter the odds. As the Dawn Strider left orbit, heading toward the next lead in their search for human legacies, Lyra reflected on the future. She had expected to discover a forgotten soldier, perhaps a relic of a long-dead species. Instead, she had found a sentinel, a warrior who carried the very essence of humanity within him. The galaxy had assumed humans were gone forever. It had been wrong, and now, with Elias Ward awake and aware, the galaxy would soon discover just how dangerous and extraordinary the last human warrior truly was. Lyra knew this was only the beginning. Challenges would come, enemies would strike, and secrets of the past would emerge. But with Elias Ward by her side, she had no doubt that humans, or at least the spirit of humanity, could survive, fight, and inspire a new era. Even in extinction, humans had endured. And now the sleeping sentinel had awoken. Elias Ward had spent centuries in cryostasis, yet his mind was as sharp as ever. Every detail of the galaxy's ancient conflicts, every Terran tactic, every combat maneuver lived vividly in his memory. But now the galaxy had changed. The species that had once shared space with humans had moved on. New alliances had formed, old empires had fallen, and humanity itself had vanished from the stars. Lyra Voss watched him closely as he walked the corridors of the Dawn Strider. The crew was still cautious, unsure of how to respond to someone whose reputation they could only imagine through legend. Yet with every step, Elias exuded a presence that demanded attention. Not through threats, not through intimidation, but through quiet confidence and the sense that he knew exactly what he was doing. "Commander," Elias said one morning, his voice calm but filled with purpose. "We need to understand the current balance of power. Knowledge is the first weapon a warrior wields. If humans left one legacy behind, it was the ability to think beyond the obvious." Lyra nodded. "We're heading toward the Astara cluster. It is neutral, but it contains archives from many civilizations. Perhaps there we can uncover fragments of human technology or knowledge." As the ship traveled through hyperspace, Elias studied the records they carried, cross-referencing them with the information in his memory. The humans of old had been masters of adaptation, inventors, explorers, and warriors. Their techniques were considered dangerous even to species that had surpassed humanity in technology. That reputation, though centuries old, had not been exaggerated. On the third day of the journey, the ship's sensors picked up unusual readings. A small fleet of unknown ships was approaching rapidly, their trajectories precise. Elias leaned over the tactical console, analyzing their movements. "Pirates, most likely," said Lieutenant Jarrus. "But their formation is unusual. It seems coordinated, intelligent." Elias studied the display, his eyes narrowing. "Not just pirates," he said quietly. "This is a strike team. Their goal is not to loot. It is to test us, to probe our defenses." The crew braced for engagement. The pirates fired first, small but fast craft surrounding the Dawn Strider. Their plasma bolts flared in space, lighting the void with deadly intent. Lyra took the captain's chair, issuing orders to return fire and maneuver. Elias, however, remained calm. He moved to the tactical station, his hands flying over controls with an ease born of centuries of training. "Vector shields to intercept fire from the port side," he instructed. "Then execute a circular maneuver to force them into a kill zone." The crew followed his commands. The ship twisted and spun, dodging bolts with uncanny precision. One by one, the enemy craft fell into traps set by the human warrior's strategy. Within minutes, the small fleet had been neutralized. When the last craft retreated, Jarrus could not hide his amazement. "Commander, did you see that? He predicted their every move." Lyra, still processing, said, "It's more than skill. It's instinct, strategy, and experience combined. Humans were extraordinary." Elias returned to the command chair, calm as ever. "Experience," he said simply. "Humans adapt. We survive. Every enemy, every battle, every threat, it becomes part of us. We learn, we anticipate, we endure." After the encounter, the crew began to see him differently. No longer was he just a relic from a bygone era. He was a living force capable of turning the tide of any conflict. They began to trust his instincts, to follow his guidance, and slowly, the legend of humanity began to feel real again. As the Dawnstrider entered the Astara cluster, Elias studied the planets below. The cluster was rich with archives, old trading stations, and abandoned colonies. Many civilizations had left records here, storing knowledge that could help him rebuild what humanity had lost. "Commander," he said, his eyes scanning the star maps, "we need to explore these archives. If humans are gone, then I must ensure that their knowledge is preserved. This knowledge may be the key to survival for those who follow." Lyra agreed, recognizing the wisdom in his words. "We'll land on the largest trading station first, Helion Archive Station. The records there are extensive, and we may find fragments of Terran technology or records." Upon landing, they were met with curious eyes. Traders and archivists had never seen a human before, let alone a warrior in ancient armor. Some stared in awe, others in fear, yet Elias moved with the same calm certainty he had displayed aboard the ship. He did not seek attention. He commanded it simply by being himself. Inside the archives, Elias examined old Terran records. Maps, star charts, weapon schematics, tactical reports. The station's vaults were full of forgotten knowledge. He cross-referenced them with his own memories, piecing together strategies and technologies that had been lost to time. "These records are valuable," he said quietly, mostly to himself. "But knowledge without action is useless. Humans did not survive by keeping it idle. We applied it, we acted, we endured." During their exploration, a group of hostile mercenaries attempted to seize the archives. They believed the human warrior might carry secrets worth capturing. Lyra's fleet engaged them, but Elias stepped forward, taking command. With calm precision, he analyzed their formations, predicting their movements, and exploiting weaknesses in their attack. Using only strategic positioning, timing, and minimal energy weapons, he forced the mercenaries to retreat. The crew of the Dawnstrider watched in astonishment. His methods were simple yet devastatingly effective. One of the archivists whispered, "He's incredible. He moves like he knows the future." Elias did not boast. He simply said, "Humans endure. That is our legacy." Strategy is not about showing power. It is about survival, about protecting what matters. The encounter cemented Elias's reputation. The news of the human warrior spread across the cluster, and soon, traders, settlers, and even small fleets began to seek him out, hoping to learn from the last of his kind. Lyra realized that his influence extended beyond skill in battle. Elias inspired hope. Hope that even in a galaxy where humans were gone, courage and determination could still make a difference. In private, Lyra asked him, "Captain Ward, why do you continue? Humanity is gone. You could rest. You could let the galaxy take its course." Elias looked at her, his eyes steady and unwavering. "Because endurance is not just about survival. It is about legacy. Humans fought, humans endured, humans created. That spirit cannot vanish even if the bodies are gone. If I do nothing, all of that is lost forever. I cannot let it die with me." Lyra felt a chill. She had seen many warriors in her life, but none carried such resolve. Not strength, not technology, not fleets. Nothing compared to the will of this one human. As they prepared to leave the Astara cluster, Elias continued to plan. He sought the hidden worlds of old human colonies, searching for technology, archives, and anything that could restore humanity's presence in the galaxy. "Every fragment we recover," he said, "every record we preserve, every lesson we remember, it strengthens the future. Not just for humans, but for all who might one day stand against oppression or tyranny. Humans may be gone, but the spirit remains, and that spirit will endure." Lyra listened, inspired and humbled. She realized that the galaxy had forgotten too much. Humans had not only fought battles but had taught the value of courage, the importance of adaptability, and the power of hope. With Elias Ward leading the way, those lessons were returning alive and unbroken. That night aboard the ship, Lyra gazed at the stars. She thought of the legends she had read as a child, of the stories of humans who had defied impossible odds. Now one human stood before her alive, capable, and ready to reshape the galaxy. And as she watched, she knew that the forgotten warrior was more than a relic. He was a beacon. A reminder that even when the universe seems to have moved on, the courage of one being could reignite the hope of many. The galaxy had assumed humans were gone. It had been wrong, and Elias Ward, the last human warrior, was about to prove it. The galaxy had changed, but the past never truly disappeared. Elias Ward had seen civilizations rise and fall, but he also knew that some enemies did not forgive. The Zarth Dominion, a ruthless species that had once clashed with humanity, still held old grudges. They had once hunted humans to near extinction, wiping out colonies and crushing entire fleets. Though centuries had passed, Elias' awakening had not gone unnoticed. On the Dawnstrider, Lyra Voss monitored the fleet sensors with growing concern. The ship was en route to the Korvath expanse, where Elias believed some Terran technology might still exist, hidden in old, abandoned outposts. "Commander," said Lieutenant Jarrus Call, eyes wide as he examined the displays. "There's something approaching at high speed. A large fleet. Shields are rising. I think it's the Zarth Dominion." Lyra's stomach tightened. "Impossible. They were weakened centuries ago and their fleet scattered. Why would they appear here now?" Elias stood beside her, calm as ever, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "They never forget. Humans were a threat they feared. Even now, one human alive is enough to stir panic." The fleet's formation emerged from hyperspace. Dozens of massive Zarth warships, black as night, engines flaring with deadly intent. Their emblem, a jagged, shadow-like sigil, was unmistakable. The Dominion had returned, drawn by the presence of the last human warrior. Lyra clenched her fists. "They want to destroy you," she said softly. Elias nodded. "They want to erase humanity's legacy, but I will not allow it." As the Dominion fleet closed in, Lyra issued commands. "Prepare shields, ready weapons, deploy decoys. We need time to analyze their strategy." Elias moved to the tactical station, his hands flying over controls with precise movements. He studied the enemy formations, noting weak points, patterns, and potential vulnerabilities. Then, with quiet authority, he began issuing instructions to the crew. "Target the lead ship's shield generators," he said. "Force their line to break. Use their momentum against them. Timing is critical. Patience and precision will win this battle." The crew followed his orders. At first, it seemed impossible. The Zarth Dominion had unmatched firepower, and their ships were larger and faster than anything the Zelnari could field. But Elias' strategy worked. Small, deliberate strikes destabilized the enemy's formation. One by one, the Zarth ships began to falter, struggling to adapt to tactics they had never seen. During the battle, Lyra witnessed something extraordinary. Elias moved like he remembered every battle he had ever fought, every tactic humanity had ever employed. His instincts guided the crew with flawless precision. He anticipated enemy maneuvers, coordinated counterattacks, and always stayed 2 steps ahead. "Captain Ward," Lyra said, astonished, "your knowledge, it's beyond any strategy we've ever known. How do you do it?" Elias did not smile. "Humans fight with their minds as much as with their weapons. We do not rely solely on technology. We think, adapt, and endure. That is why we survive." The battle raged for hours, but Elias' tactics held. The Zarth Dominion, frustrated and unable to predict his moves, eventually began to retreat. Their flagship, a massive war dreadnought, fired one last volley before disappearing into hyperspace, signaling the end of the skirmish. For now. When the dust settled, Lyra turned to Elias. "You did it. Against impossible odds, you turned the tide." Elias shook his head. "This is only the beginning. The Dominion will return. They will not forget that a human lives. We must prepare, gather allies, and uncover the technologies humans left behind. Only then can we ensure their spirit survives." The crew spent the following days repairing the ship and analyzing the Dominion's tactics. Elias led them in studying the battle, pointing out mistakes, improvements, and alternative strategies. He taught the crew to think beyond instinct, to anticipate, to adapt, the very qualities that had made humans legendary. Lyra began to see the truth. Humans had not been strong merely because of weapons or numbers. Their strength had been in their minds, their courage, and their relentless will to survive. And that strength lived on in Elias Ward. But the shadows of the past did not rest. As they scanned the nearby systems, Lyra noticed unusual energy signatures coming from an old Terran colony, abandoned, yet alive with strange hidden machinery. "Commander," Jarrus said, pointing at the readings, "this colony, it's emitting power, but it should be abandoned." "How?" Elias' eyes narrowed. "This is a hidden outpost. Humans often concealed technology where enemies would least expect it. If the Dominion discovered this, they would destroy it immediately. We need to secure it, carefully." The team landed on the deserted world. Ruins stretched across the landscape, overgrown and battered by centuries of neglect. Elias led the way, moving with precision, scanning for traps or hidden threats. Each step he took demonstrated not only skill, but the awareness of someone trained to anticipate danger everywhere. Inside the main facility, they discovered advanced Terran devices still functioning despite the centuries. Weapon systems, energy grids, and archives containing tactical knowledge filled the chambers. It was a treasure trove of human ingenuity. "This is incredible," Lyra whispered. "Everything here, humans created." Elias studied the equipment carefully, and it is not just technology. It is proof of their thinking, their creativity, and their perseverance. Every design, every invention, every strategy tells a story of a species that refused to yield. This is why humans were feared, and this is why we must protect it. As they secured the colony, a warning alert flashed on the monitors. Another Dominion strike force had detected their presence and was approaching the system. Lyra turned to Elias. "We have to leave. We can't fight them all here." He shook his head. "No, if we run, they will chase. We must hold our ground and show that humans, even one, can change the outcome of a battle. Prepare defenses. We will face them together." The Dominion fleet arrived, their ships forming a deadly blockade around the planet. They opened fire, energy beams cutting across the sky, shaking the ground with impact. Lyra's crew activated shields and countermeasures, but the Zarth forces were relentless. Elias moved through the chaos with calm authority, coordinating defenses and directing counterattacks. Every decision was precise, every order calculated. He inspired the crew, showing them that courage and determination could outweigh sheer numbers. As the battle intensified, Elias donned his ancient Terran battlesuit, scratched and worn but still functional. Its systems integrated perfectly with his instincts, enhancing his abilities without diminishing his skill. He moved across the battlefield, striking with precision, disabling enemy weapons, and guiding the crew's attacks. His presence alone became a rallying point for everyone defending the planet. Hours passed. The Dominion's forces, frustrated and unable to break through, began to falter. Elias's strategy, experience, and determination turned the tide once again. The enemy retreated, leaving the colony intact and the crew victorious. Lyra approached Elias after the battle, awe in her eyes. "You did it again. One human against an entire fleet, and you won. How is this possible?" Elias looked out at the stars, calm as ever. "Humans endure. That is our nature. Strength is not measured by numbers, weapons, or fleets. It is measured by courage, intelligence, and the will to survive. Even if we are few, even if we are forgotten, that spirit cannot be destroyed." Lyra realized the truth. The galaxy had assumed humans were gone. They had been wrong, and with Elias Ward alive, their legacy, their spirit, courage, and determination would not just survive. It would inspire. It would endure. The battle was over, but the shadows of the past still lingered. The Dominion would return. Others would seek to erase the last traces of humanity. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. One human, standing tall, unbroken, and ready to face any challenge. Elias Ward was more than a warrior. He was a reminder that courage, determination, and intelligence could shape the future, and the galaxy would remember that lesson, one battle at a time. The galaxy had assumed humans were gone. The species had vanished centuries ago, leaving only stories and legends behind. But now, one human warrior had returned, Captain Elias Ward. He had faced the unknown, awakened from centuries of stasis, and proven that human courage and determination were far from extinct. Yet the final challenge awaited. The Zarth Dominion had regrouped. Furious at their earlier defeat, they amassed a fleet larger than any the galaxy had seen in decades. Their goal was simple: eliminate Elias Ward and erase the last trace of humanity forever. Intelligence reports indicated that the Dominion intended to strike Helion Prime, a strategic system that Elias had identified as the next key to preserving human knowledge and technology. Lyra Voss, standing on the bridge of the Dawnstrider, studied the incoming fleet with concern. "Commander, they're massive," she said. "We have fewer ships and their firepower is overwhelming." Elias Ward, donning his battle armor, remained calm. "Numbers are meaningless if strategy is applied correctly. We will use intelligence, timing, and courage. Humans survive because we do not wait for odds to favor us. We act, we adapt, we endure." The crew worked quickly, preparing defenses, fortifying their positions, and rallying nearby allied fleets. Word of Elias's presence had spread, and several civilizations, inspired by the legend of the last human warrior, joined the fight. Ships from diverse species, some long reluctant to oppose the Dominion, now sailed alongside the Zelnari. Despite the reinforcements, the Dominion fleet loomed like a shadow over Helion Prime. Their ships were enormous, armed with devastating energy cannons capable of obliterating entire worlds. Yet Elias saw opportunity where others saw despair. "Divide their focus," he instructed. "Split their fleet into sectors. Force their lines to break. Concentrate fire on their command ships. We target the brains of their operation first. Then the rest will falter." The battle began with thunderous energy blasts, shaking the space around Helion Prime. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships maneuvered with precision, dodging deadly attacks and striking in coordinated strikes. Elias moved among them like a conductor, guiding each vessel, predicting enemy actions, and adapting strategies in real time. The Dominion flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons, advanced on the Allied fleet. Its sheer size and power threatened to crush all resistance. Lyra watched as Elias calculated every movement, issuing orders that seemed impossible to follow, yet the fleet obeyed flawlessly. "Captain Ward," she shouted over the comms, "they're focusing on the central fleet. We cannot hold." Elias remained calm. "Hold steady. Draw them in. They will overextend and then we strike." He activated the Terran battlesuit's advanced targeting systems, moving with speed and precision unmatched by anyone in the galaxy. Using the combination of ancient Terran tactics and modern fleet coordination, he launched a daring assault on the Dominion flagship. Small strike teams, guided by his commands, disabled key systems, disrupting communications and energy shields. The Dominion fleet faltered, confused and unable to adapt to strategies they had never encountered. One by one, their ships began to fall back or surrender, their confidence shattered by the last human warrior. Elias did not pause. He moved to intercept the flagship directly. The battle at close range was brutal, but his skill, combined with the armor's systems, allowed him to outmaneuver massive weapon fire. With precise strikes, he disabled the dreadnought's engines and main weapons, leaving it defenseless. Lyra watched in awe as Elias stood amidst the chaos of the battlefield, directing allies, neutralizing threats, and inspiring everyone around him. Even the smallest ship crews, previously hesitant to engage, now fought with courage they did not know they possessed. The human spirit embodied in Elias Ward spread like wildfire across the fleet. Finally, the Dominion flagship raised its energy shields in surrender. The remaining ships, seeing their command vessel incapacitated, began retreating, leaving Helion Prime untouched. The galaxy had witnessed an extraordinary feat. One human warrior had turned the tide of a massive galactic assault. As silence returned to space, Lyra approached Elias. "Captain Ward," she said, her voice filled with admiration, "you did it. You faced an entire fleet and won. How can one human accomplish this?" Elias removed his helmet, revealing a face marked by determination and the weight of centuries. "Humans survive," he said quietly. "Not because of strength or numbers, but because of courage, adaptability, and will. We endure because we refuse to give up. That is our legacy. That is why the galaxy feared us. That is why it must remember us again." Across the stars, signals of hope spread. Colonies that had long surrendered to fear now rallied, inspired by Elias's courage. Ships began painting the Terran Alliance insignia on their hulls, a symbol of human resilience and determination. The legend was becoming reality. Humans, thought lost, were remembered not just as a species, but as an idea, a standard of courage and endurance. Lyra stood on the bridge, watching the celebrations and repairs across the Allied fleet. She realized that humanity had been underestimated for centuries. It was not their technology nor their weapons, but their indomitable spirit that had made them a force the galaxy could never forget. Elias Ward walked among the fleet crews, offering guidance, encouragement, and lessons from the Terran past. He spoke of strategy, courage, and hope, inspiring soldiers of every species to believe in something greater than themselves. In the weeks that followed, Elias led expeditions to recover lost Terran technology, archives, and artifacts. Each discovery strengthened the galaxy's understanding of humanity, reminding everyone that intelligence, bravery, and perseverance were traits worth honoring and preserving. Lyra, once a commander who doubted the existence of humans, now marveled at the warrior before her. "He is not just a soldier," she said to Jarrus. "He is a symbol." The galaxy needed this, a reminder that courage and determination can change everything. Elias, standing on the observation deck and looking out at the stars, spoke softly. "Humans endure. Even when we are few, even when forgotten, our spirit lives. One warrior can inspire many. One spark can ignite a galaxy." The Zarth Dominion, now in retreat, would regroup, but they had learned a lesson centuries too late. Humans, or even one human, could not be ignored. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a warrior unlike any other, and the legacy of humanity had returned stronger than ever. Lyra recorded Elias's words and sent them across Allied systems. Courage, endurance, and determination can turn the impossible into reality. Remember humanity. And as the message traveled through hyperspace, it sparked hope, courage, and unity across countless worlds. The galaxy would remember the last human warrior, not just as a fighter, but as a symbol, proof that no species, no matter how small or forgotten, is ever truly gone when their spirit lives on. Elias Ward had not returned for glory. He had returned to preserve a legacy that would endure in the hearts and minds of every being inspired by his courage. The galaxy had assumed humans were gone. They had been wrong. Humans were not gone. They had returned, and one human warrior stood tall, proving that human courage, intelligence, and endurance were a force the galaxy would never forget.